What's up and welcome back to another video, guys. Today I'll be answering some of your questions. We'll be talking about a LEGO Republic Dropship, the 50th anniversary of Star Wars, joining the LEGO Ambassador Network, as well as some 2026 LEGO Star Wars leaks and rumors. We have a lot to talk about in this video, so if you're excited, leave a like, and if you have any questions that you'd like me to answer in the next installment of this series, let me know down below in the comment section of this video. And without further ado, let's get right on into this video. Our first question for today comes from Shkak6, and they ask, with the clone pilot being remade, what do I think the next ships that should be made, including that clone pilot? And I agree with you. I do think that a gunship is definitely at the top of that list. Like you said, the last Republic gunship being that UCS one that we saw, and before that it was in 2013 with the last playset gunship that we saw being a Republic gunship. We do have the Coruscant Guard gunship, but that is not everyone's cup of tea, and I do think getting a new Republic gunship is definitely at the top of the list, especially with those new clone pilots, and I do think there are a couple of other sets that we could see him in. Ideally for me, at the top of my list as well, would be some sort of Republic Y-Wing. I think would be great to see. I love that yellow color scheme in that OG set, just being such a nostalgic one. I think definitely deserves a remake, and there's a ton of other ones. Like if we got like a Republic attack shuttle, that would be a perfect minifigure to include. There are so many clone vehicles based off of the Clone Wars where that clone pilot would be the perfect minifigure, and now that we have gotten him in that V19 Torrents, I think it definitely opens up a bunch of doors to LEGO. I don't know exactly what the next one we would see would be, but if I had to guess, I feel like a gunship is definitely on the table coming very soon, which we will be talking about a little bit later. And for me, my personal favorite, or the one that I would want the most, would be seeing a new Y-Wing. Clash Theory asks, do I think that LEGO will continue to rebuild the Galaxy sets, or do I think that they will focus on anniversary sets coming in 2026? And as for Rebuild the Galaxy, it's no secret that these sets aren't, everyone's cup of tea. Going through some stores and other stuff like that, it's the set that I mainly see on shelves when I went out for the August 1st release. The Force Burner Speeder was the only one in stock at pretty much all of these stores. Everything else was sold out, and that Rebuild the Galaxy set was lining the shelves. So no secret that it probably isn't the best selling out of all of these sets. However, I do think that LEGO is still going to make sets based off of it, from looking toward the success of the show, especially toward like the younger audience, and then wanting those sets at some point or another. I feel like it definitely has its place, especially when geared toward the younger audience, and it definitely gave us some really cool stuff. Like Jedi Bob Starfighter was a very cool set to see, and they can definitely cook when it comes to those other sets. The Dark Millennium Falcon being a fan favorite with that Jedi Vader, so I think there's definitely a place for the Rebuild the Galaxy sets in LEGO, and I do think they are going to continue making them as long as the show is still running. I think once the show ends, they're probably not going to make any more sets based off of it, but now while the show's running, I do definitely expect to see more sets in the coming years. At Zero Mike Wolf asks, do I think that LEGO will make a Republic dropship, however without the ATOT, and just pick up the sets that are sold separately? And this is like the golden idea that everyone wants when it comes to a dropship, a Republic dropship with ATOT, because LEGO isn't going to make a Republic dropship with ATOT. We talked about this in the previous episode. I believe it's a very frequent question, but I feel like when it comes to the ATOT, it's not really a set that LEGO can remake at a given price point. It would be a very expensive set. Like looking toward the Turbo Tank, that was $160 set, let's say, for the sake of this argument, that would be the price of the ATOT on its own. And then looking toward the Republic gunship, that being $140 set, let's say that is the price of the the dropship, which would probably be more than that. Let's say 160 and 160, but let's cut off some money anyway and call it 300, which would probably be like $350 set. But still, a $300 playset doesn't really seem like it is something that LEGO would be willing to do at this point in time, especially with how they've been going about making these other sets and all of the other playsets being very, very expensive. I feel like a $300 dropship with ATOT probably wouldn't go over too well, and I do think that the ideal way to go about that would be making the dropship separately. That's what everyone has been saying over the past couple of years. Sell the dropship, let it pick up your ATTE, your turbo tank, all of your other cool stuff like that, and it would be golden. However, I don't think that's going to happen, just because there isn't really anything integrated into the turbo tank, into the ATTE, that would make it be able to be picked up well by a dropship. Now, I do think that that is a good idea for the future and something that they may consider doing. I just don't think that it is very likely. I honestly doubt that we'll ever see another dropship or an ATOT. Nathan Gaming asks, if we got anniversary minifigures like we did for the 25th anniversary of LEGO Star Wars, what characters do I think are most likely to become anniversary figs for A New Hope or Attack of the Clones? And I answered this question once, but I answered with what figures I want to see, so now I'm going to answer with the figures that I think are most likely to see. And I think when it comes to this, if we do get anniversary minifigures, it's going to be based off of the 50th anniversary of A New Hope. I don't think that LEGO is going to go back and, do 25th anniversary figures just for Attack of the Clones. It doesn't really make the most sense. And in previous years, anniversary minifigures have been reserved for anniversaries of like LEGO Star Wars in general. But now with the 50th anniversary of New Hope, if LEGO does give us some sort of figures, it's going to be a New Hope based. I'm not sure exactly what we would see based off of New Hope. I feel like we could get one of two things. One, we get like a bunch of classic style characters and like that old kind of LEGO, like with the yellow skin and like the minimal printing, kind of like what we saw back in 2019, just with all of the New Hope characters. Maybe you get some of your like fan favorites, one like that, and you have them on the little stands throughout your sets. Or we would get some like niche characters from A New Hope that we haven't seen recently, or we just never really see in LEGO format. But I feel like it's either one of those, and if I had to guess, I would lean toward more like the vintage style of like all of the named characters and stuff like that. Or it might not even be in that vintage style of LEGO. It might just be like the normal style, and you just get like a plain old Luke, Leia, Han, like all of your main characters like that. But I do feel like it would be kind of different, have to have some twist, and for that is why I think that it would be most likely to get them in like that old kind of style. Ideally, we would get some crazy minifigures, but I just don't think that's going to happen realistically. And to be honest, I don't think that we are going to get minifigures for the anniversary of A New Hope. I feel like the next time we get anniversary minifigures is going to be for the 30th year anniversary of LEGO Star Wars, which I believe is in 2029, so that is coming up pretty soon. Jackson Memento asks, do I think that LEGO will ever make an accurate minifigure scale UCS Clone Y-Wing, V19 Torrent, or an ARC 170, as well as an ATTE? And I feel like there's a couple here that are a lot more likely than others. Now, when it comes to like the Clone Y-Wing, we saw the UCS Rebel Y-Wing, so it wouldn't necessarily be something that is hard. I do think it is pretty unlikely though, just given how niche that is, and I would ideally want to see that as a playset, not a UCS set. I do think it would make a great UCS set, but when it comes to LEGO and how they use their UCS slots, I really don't think many Clone Wars sets are, on the table. We saw the UCS Venator, which was the first UCS Clone Wars set, and we also got the gunship that was based off of Episode 2, which is one of like the first of the prequel set-based UCS sets. But I do think LEGO is definitely branching out, especially after we saw the Fire Spray or this Jango Fett's Slave 1. So I do think that there are a couple of possibilities. Now, I don't think a UCS Y-Wing or a V19 Torrent would really make the most sense. I feel like with the V19 Torrent, it just wouldn't really make sense as a UCS set. I think it warrants being a playset perfectly. And then as for the most two likely out of your list, an ARC 170 as well as an ATTE, I think the ARC 170 is the no-brainer here. I think it would make a perfect UCS set. I think the size also lines up perfectly when it comes to UCS at like a $240 price point. And I think that that would work out perfectly. It's one that a lot of people wanted to see for the anniversary of Revenge of the Sith. And now that we have the playset, I do think it is potentially likely to see a UCS version of the ARC 170 at some point in the future. And as for an ATTE, I don't know. I feel like it would be super cool, but I feel like something like that would be very hard. I feel like when it comes to the ATTE, a very odd shape, and it's kind of like hard to stand up. And honestly, I don't think that we would ever see an ATTE in the UCS form. I feel like looking towards something like the AT-AT, which was, a really good set, like near perfect. It was a perfect set. I don't own it because I don't have space for it, but I feel like when something like that, it would have to compare in size to the ATTE, and I just can't see an ATTE being like, it would be a massive set. I feel like it would be very hard for LEGO to make it be structurally sound as well. I don't think they can't do it. I think they definitely could do it. I just don't think it is something that they would consider doing anytime soon. I would love to see it. I think it'd be a great set, but I think the most likely one on this list would be an ARC 170, and I really hope to see more Clone Wars and prequel themed UCS sets down the road. Star Wars Jedi asks, do I think that we are going to get soon some Rebel-class ships, like a Tantive 4, the Nebulon B frigates, the Hammerhead Coverts, as well as some other ones? And thank you for your kind words. And I do. I think that around the corner, especially for 2026, like I was just saying earlier, with the anniversary of A New Hope, the 50th anniversary coming up, we're definitely going to get some Rebel love, which has definitely been lacking over the past couple of years, especially when it comes to something like the Tantive 4 being such an iconic ship. And, the last set, unfortunately can't see it here, but I do have it. It is a great set. The model is very nice, and it's been so long, and that being a pretty expensive set is definitely one that would warrant a remake, but it would be even more expensive if it was released today. I believe the retail on that, was it $200? I want to say it was like $200 or $300. I think it was $200 though. So now if it came out, it'd probably be like upwards of $300 if we got a set in similar size. And I do think that that is something that is very likely. And I think out of all of the ones you listed, unfortunately, I doubt we see a Nebulon B frigate in like a playset or anything like that at any time in the future. I think a Tantive 4 is definitely doable and is definitely on the cards for LEGO. I don't know if we'd see it in 2026, but it definitely is down the road. I think that the previous one they made is a great set. It's a lot of fun. And I feel like when it comes to the Rebels, definitely do need some love, especially when it comes to like the play sets and the big ships like that. We've gotten a couple of sets here and there, like the Battle Pack, as well as some of these smaller stuff. And recently we got the Yavin 4 base, but we definitely do need some bigger ships to go with our Rebel fleets. Siri Mall says, with the gunship retiring, could we see a new one soon? And this is something I talked about briefly previously. I'll keep it short and sweet to not sound like a broken record, but yes, I do, and there has been some talks. This isn't a rumor, this isn't anything, but people are expecting to see it in 2028 for the anniversary of a Clone Wars. Now, ideally, I'd want to see one based off of episode 2 in 2027, but it doesn't really look like that's going to happen, especially with all of the other stuff, coinciding with that as well. But I do think when it comes down to just overall with the whole anniversaries and all of that, I don't think it actually has to tie in. I feel like recently people have been, trying to make all the sets tie into anniversary of different things, and well, LEGO definitely does look at that. We could also just get a gunship randomly, but I do agree in the fact that the gunship will probably have to be retired for at least a year. I feel like, so it's going to retire in 2026, and then 2026 we're not going to get a gunship, but then starting in 2027, the window opens again to see a gunship, but we have to, realize we got a gunship in 2013 to playset, and then we didn't get another gunship until 2023 in playset form. 10-year gap. Hopefully we don't go 10 years without a gunship. I think a lot of people are really wanting a new Republic gunship, and I do think there is one right around the corner, but I feel like the earliest we'd see it would be 2027, and most likely we'd see it in 2028 or even a little bit later. Next up is Max Ranier asking, will I ever join LAN, which is the LEGO Ambassador Network? And I feel like, well, before I go on, I want to say nothing but respect for all of the LAN members. I think I have a couple of friends that are LAN members, but they've told me, some of the inside stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And personally, I just don't think that it is for me, and I don't think it is in the right direction for this channel. Now, when it comes down to LAN, I'll break it down quickly into the pros and cons. Now, for me personally, the pros of being, a LAN member would be getting sets for free, as well as the biggest pro would be getting these sets early. Now, there's also a couple of other stuff that goes in there, like being recognized by LEGO. To be honest, I don't really care about that. I care about the free sets as well as getting these sets early, which might just, give the answer that I'm not fit to be a LAN member. But to be honest, that would be all that I really care about. But when it comes down to that, the biggest thing would be getting those sets early. And getting those sets early, pretty big thing, because it lets you get the review out a month or even longer before the set releases, giving you a pretty big video. Like looking at someone, I'm going to use Solid Brick Studios as an example, they are a LAN member, and they get the sets very early, and now they do make great reviews. Their quality on their reviews are amazing, and that definitely contributes to the size. However, if they were to make those reviews on the release day of the set, they would not get nearly as many views. Like, I'm not going to sit here and act like it would get like half the views or even like 3/4 of the views, but it would definitely take a hit if he wasn't getting them out as early as he did. So that would be the biggest thing, would be getting the sets for review and being able to review them as early as you do. But for me, that would really be the only like pro that I would get out of it, would be the early reviews as well as the free LEGO. But then I think the cons kind of outweigh it. The first and the biggest con is just the whole issue with what they've been acting toward the leaks. Now, I've talked about this before. I think how they go about it is very stupid, but I mean, it's LEGO, so what do you expect? But coming down to it, the fact that you have to, sign an NDA, you can't talk about leaks on your channel, like, just doesn't really, I think that is stupid. And I also think for my channel, one of my favorite things to do is talk about leaks, to show leaks. It's like one of the biggest things in this community is speculating, talking about the leaks, looking at it. And it's so much fun to get that information, to make videos and talk to all of you guys like in the comments and in these videos about those leaks. And I think it really kind of grows the community and brings it together. And I think that is stupid how LEGO is trying to go against that and making the LAN members not be able to talk about it. And that is the biggest reason that I don't think I would. And the second reason is I feel like first of all, I don't really like making reviews. I only really do reviews because when I get a set, I'm like, okay, I just bought this set. I bought a $160 turbo tank. I got to recuperate this somehow. So let me make a review on it. And then, all of that stuff as well. But then also if I had to make reviews for LAN, I feel like if LEGO sent me the set for free, I would feel inclined to speak more positively, or at least filter myself a little more. And I know, LAN members, they're not giving, LEGO doesn't tell them what to say. However, I feel like, there are a lot of people in LAN that glaze the LEGO sets regardless of what is going on. But I feel like when it comes to me, when I make a review, I give my unfiltered opinion. I say exactly what I'm thinking about the set in that moment. And I feel like the people that enjoy my reviews, the few of you that there are, like my reviews because I'm saying exactly what I'm not sugarcoating anything. I'm saying answering how it is. I'm dishing it out exactly as I think that it is. And it's just, I feel like if LEGO sent that to me for free, I might be inclined to be like, oh, like I might look over some things. I might kind of filter myself a little bit more. I can't say for sure because LEGO's never sent me anything for free, but definitely the case with like other sponsorships in the past when something's been sent to me, I've been kind of more inclined to, speak more positively versus negatively because I don't have to pay for it. And I think that is another thing. It would kind of sacrifice the integrity of this channel, as well as like I have to say, there's like a negative stigma around the LAN members. I don't really know why. Well, I do know why, but I don't really want to talk about it. But I also just don't really want to deal with that either. But short answer, I know that I just yapped for like 5 minutes, but the short answer is no. I don't think I'd ever join LAN. Maybe if they change their ways in the future. And also, I don't think LAN wants me either. I'm pretty small in comparison to some of the other ones in my audience, being pretty like similar to some of the other people as well that are already in LAN. So there's not really a reason for me to join either. But honestly, I don't think that I would ever join LAN. But maybe down the road, but never say never. But I just don't think that it is for me. And I'm sorry that I just talked all of your ears off for so long. But let's move on to our next question. And our next question comes from Corda, and they say that they are making a Felucia mock, and since I made a large-scale Ryloth mock, how do I get a large quantity of 327 Star Corps troopers? And I'm very excited to see your Felucia mock. Felucia, it's something that I've wanted to tackle for a while, but it's definitely a hard thing to make with all the terrain and foliage. But as for the 327 Star Corps clone troopers, I don't think right now would be the best time to buy them. They are insanely expensive. I say postpone it. I want to do a Felucia mock at some point in the future, and I'm definitely going to wait for these 327 troopers to go down in price because the battle pack's $45. Bly is locked on $160 MTT. So you're going to be paying like $10 a clone trooper if you're buying them on the aftermarket as well right now, and Bly goes for like $60 right now for some reason. It's crazy. I don't think now would be the perfect time to be buying these clone troopers. If you really want to, though, the best way to do it would just be buy the battle pack. If they go on sale, though, they're $45. I can't recommend you buy a $45 battle pack. Also, buying them on the aftermarket for $10 a piece, I just don't think it's the move. Honestly, I think if I were you, I would wait a little bit, wait to get 327 clone troopers. They are at an all-time high right now. They are not going to reach this high of a price until after they've been retired for over a year. So now I think they are at their highest price. As sets go on sale, especially as we approach the holiday seasons, we're going to see that price come down farther and farther and farther. And once it gets to a point where you think it is a bit safer to buy them, because you don't want to be spending so much money on a clone trooper just for it to go down in price later on. Because at least if you buy them as cheap as you can, at least when you're done with your mock, you can sell them off later to recuperate some of the price of the mock, which is definitely a good way to go about it. But I really don't think that right now is the best way to go about buying the 327 clone troopers. But when you are ready to buy them, I think the best way is just the battle pack's going to go on sale. It's inevitable. There's no way that the retailers are going to be able to sell that set for $45. It's going to go on sale to at least $30. It might even go down to the $23 that we see the $30 battle packs come down to. So we're just going to have to wait and see, but do not buy 327 clone troopers right now because they are at an all-time high for price. And our last question for today comes from Levi, and they ask, when do I think that the Separatists will get some more sets? They need some more love besides side figures and also in battle packs. Side figures in battle packs and other sets like that. And I agree with you. We really only get many droids, like as 1, 2, 3 droids thrown into your battle pack, or like your big clone set. We recently finally got a new MTT after so long of not having a Separatist set, but we need some of those droids. Like we need the Malevolence, we need a new AAT, there's so many Separatist sets out there that would be great. And there's a lot of Separatist fans out there. And something with like the MTT, I feel like is definitely a step in the right direction. And I feel like with the MTT being as good of a set as it is, I feel like it's going to sell very well in the long run, which is going to, indicate to LEGO, people like the Separatists, make more Separatist sets. And ideally they are going to make more Separatist sets in the future. Now, I don't know when that's going to be. We're probably not going to see any Separatist sets in 2026, and we might see a couple in 2027 if they do some related to Attack of the Clones. We get like a Hailfire droid and some other stuff like that. But maybe with the Clone Wars in 2028 would be a good time to get some more Separatist sets. But it's definitely been something that has been lacking. We get so many clone sets each year, and we don't have Separatists to go against them. Now we finally got the MTT. Definitely a step in the right direction, but I think LEGO still has a far ways to come when it comes to the Separatists, and I really hope to see more in the future. But that was the last question for this video. Thank you to everyone who asked a question, and thank you for everyone for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed. And if you have any questions that you'd like me to answer in the next installment of this series, let me know down below in the comment section of this video, and I'll try my best to get to them in the next episode. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay safe. Drew, signing out. YouTube thinks you're really going to like this video, so if I were you, I'd click on that video.